When I started as a student, the recipe of the universe was simple, it was clear. The universe was made up of the same things that you and I and all of you out there are made up of this table, this building, this planet, the sun, and the stars, made up of atoms and molecules, which themselves are made up of subatomic particles, protons and neutrons and electrons. And then the light traveling between those particles. And that was the recipe of the universe. And before I had graduated with my Bachelor of Science degree, that recipe was overturned. A young woman, still a student, a graduate student at the Carnegie Institute of Washington, Vera Rubin, who passed away earlier this year, unfortunately, showed us that what you see isn't always what you get. And she had discovered what we now call dark matter, that there is matter out there, maybe about 10 times as much as the matter that we can see and detect in the forms of stars and the gas and dust between the stars, that was invisible in every way except its gravitational influence on the matter we could see. And then, about 15 years ago, while I was a professor here, there was another change in the recipe in which cosmologists discovered that the expanding universe, which we were expecting to slow down due to the weight of the universe itself, the gravity of the stuff that's in the universe, slowing down the expansion, but that the expansion wasn't slowing down, it was accelerating due to something that we now call dark energy. Now, we could call it George, we could call it Matilda. Dark energy is just a placeholder name for something that we don't really know what it is, we just know how it manifests itself in the observable universe. And so now, the recipe of the universe consists of mainly 3 ingredients. Dark energy, and that makes up 75% of the mass energy budget of the universe. Dark matter, that makes up about 21% of the mass energy budget in the recipe. And what used to be 100%, the stuff that makes up you and me and the Earth and the stars, that's now relegated to 4%.
So we're really like fairy dust.
Yeah, well, and you'll notice the stuff that makes up you and me and the Earth, that is getting closer to something like 0.01%.
Wow.
So we've gone from being the main ingredient in the recipe, the cheese and the fondue, to being a condiment. Well, if you put ketchup in your fondue, but I prefer to think of it not as a condiment. We're the spice of the universe. We're the flavor. There's only a pinch of us, but that's a very important pinch. If you ask any chef what is the most important ingredient in her or his kitchen, or in the top 5, I can guarantee that they are going to mention a spice or an herb. They're not going to mention the flour, or the sugar, or and so we are the flavor of the universe. If it weren't for us, if it weren't for this little dash of ingredients, the universe would be a very boring place because there wouldn't be life in the universe. The only life that we know of, unless you think that the Star Wars movies are documentary series, is here on Earth. And I'm looking for places where life might spring up and thrive elsewhere in our galaxy, but we don't have evidence for that yet. But we do have evidence for it here. And some of that life, us, we have looked up. I looked up when I was 1 or 2 years old and questioned what were those pinpoints of light in the sky. And we have continued to question. And although we are in a tiny portion of the universe, even though we represent an insignificant fraction of the overall recipe of the universe, we have been able to comprehend aspects of that universe, even aspects which are billions of light years away from us, things that happened billions of years ago in cosmic history. And that's impressive. And if we weren't there thinking about it, and if nobody else were there, if there is life elsewhere, it's built in the same set of ingredients. There are other spices in the spice rack of our universe. Then there would be nobody thinking about it. You could conceive of a universe, and there is a theory known as the Multiverse Theory, in which there are many, many parallel universes which exist sharing the kind of same space that we're in right now. But many of those universes would, maybe consist of only like hydrogen and helium that could form stars and gas giant planets like Jupiter in our solar system, but could not form solid planets like the Earth, and could not form life in any conceivable way. And so those would be empty universes in the sense that they wouldn't have any consciousness in them. And it's a little bit like those kind of philosophical debates that I'm sure all of us had at some point when we were students, especially in university or college, over beers late at night. If a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody to hear, does it make a sound? Well, if a universe exists and there's no life in it to comprehend it, is it really an interesting universe? Nobody would be aware of it. It would be, except maybe us, if we could ever demonstrate and find evidence for this multiverse, then we would perhaps be able to discover these boring universes are out there, and that would help us appreciate even more what I would say is a very interesting universe. So don't be depressed by the fact that we represent a very tiny fraction of the recipe of the universe, because it's not quantity, it's quality, and we are the flavor. And so every time that you're feeling kind of insignificant, just remind yourself, and now maybe you can understand why it was worthwhile speaking to me, is that you are part of the flavor of the universe. You're part of what gives this universe meaning. And if it weren't for you, and if it weren't for all of us, and if it weren't for the possible alien life elsewhere in the universe, then, well, nobody would be thinking about our universe, and it would be a really boring, meaningless universe, because hydrogen and helium atoms just can't appreciate the fact that they're there. We can appreciate the fact that we're here, and we can appreciate what here means. And here isn't just right here in this room or on this planet. Here is a here that extends out over incredible distances in space and time, which are difficult for humans to comprehend, but that's part of my job, is to help you and others comprehend those scales, and rather than be dwarfed by them, be empowered by them.
Very cool.